and Mr. Dumas.
And good evening. We welcome you to the show this evening. We have a lot of things that we want to discuss and um, give you some information, things that are involving our community. And again, we welcome you to our um, station to listen to very important information. It's so important. These days, the radio stations are the ones that's giving out the information that's needed that affects our community. So I want to thank WDDO um, for allowing us to be able to be a part of being able to get information out. A lot of times, during COVID, people were in, and so they were listening to the radio a lot. So we want to thank the community for listening in and supporting the WDDO. First thing that I want to talk about today is domestic violence. Many of you may not know that October the 17th is National Domestic Violence Month. And whether people believe it or not, most of our the killings that's taken place here in Macon is in some part of domestic violence. So it's very important that we are aware um, regarding domestic violence. Um, and reading up on some of the things with domestic violence, I learned that domestic violence doesn't just affect women. Um, and people think that uh, women are just affected by domestic violence, but that's not true. Men, women and elders are affected by domestic violence, but 1.5 million women are um, affected by domestic violence by normally their partner. Um, and so many times, we see women that are being abused. Um, a lot of times they stay in a relationship. Um, I've spoken to people that have been involved in domestic violence, and a lot of things that they would say that they stayed because of the children, or a lot of times that they stay because they've been like a stay at home mom, or they haven't worked, and so they stay there because it's like a cushion for them. They are, don't know where to basically start if they leave and to start on their own. But no person should stay in a relationship for those reasons. There are so many support groups out there for women and men who have been affected by domestic violence. When I did some research, it was was looking at about 10 million children witness domestic violence in their homes with their parents or whomever they witness domestic violence. Um, but what we have to remember, there's different types of um, domestic violence. There's physical and sexual, emotional abuse, threatening, intimidation, isolation. A lot of times, people use the children uh, doing domestic violence, and um, so we just have to be mindful and educate our community on domestic violence, um, and let people know that there's basically so many resources out there to protect women and children, men and children that are affected by domestic violence. There's so many resources out there for different families that are being affected by domestic violence. And a lot of times when we're dealing with domestic violence, and like I say, domestic violence does not discriminate. It could be it does not have anything to do with racial, religion, culture, or any economic boundaries. Domestic violence can affect any person. And so I just want to give encouraging words to anyone that's in a domestic violence, in a relationship where you're experiencing domestic violence. Please seek help. Do not uh, don't be silent and don't be afraid to reach out to um, someone for help. It's just like I said, so many different resources out there, and for you for protection. There's the safe house, different places that they have that women or men with children can live and not disclose where you are. Um, and so please seek help. No one should have to um, uh, be affected by verbal abuse. Sometimes verbal abuse is, you know, that's so painful. People can say things to you, and um, uh, that's still a type of abuse, even though it's verbal. So again, we just ask people to please reach out and get help with your if you're experiencing domestic violence. Um, so, and the next thing that I want to talk about is, and I want to go into uh, our landlords, people with housing issues. First of all, I want to say to our audience uh, and people that are listening, it's so very important that if you have an issue, any type of issue, whether it's housing, whether it's education, criminal justice, voting, any type of issue, health issues that you're dealing with, um, anything economic that you feel that you have been, there's disparities involved where you think that you've been treated different. We encourage you to reach out to the NAACP at that time. Don't wait until you are sentenced to go to prison before you reach out to us. If you're experiencing where you feel that you've been wrongly accused, we need for you or a family member to reach out to the NAACP at that time. Don't sit in jail for a whole year and not reach out to us and then wait till you're sentenced. And it puts us in a situation where we may not be able to help you at that point. Um, we ask for you to file to first. You need to contact our office, leave a name and phone number, and someone will call you back. And we will send you out a complaint form. At that time, you'll fill out that complaint form and send that complaint form back for us to actually review your complaint. What we do is we investigate the complaint and the issue. A lot of times people think that because you file a complaint with our office that we're going to automatically um, we're going to take the complaint and we're going to um, assist you with it. But what we have to do is do an investigation first, and then even though we're going to contact you first and speak to you and get all the facts and the information, but at the same time, we we're going to be contacting whoever you're filing a complaint against to find out additional information. But the first step is to file your complaint with our office so we can have a record of your a record of your complaint. A lot of times my number is given out to a lot of different people, but I encourage you um, to call the office number. That number is 478-745-9944. I encourage you to call that number because that way that's a record of you calling, and someone can document the phone call so someone can call you back. If you um, call me on my personal cell phone, because I get so many calls a day, within a day's time. A lot of times I have to shuffle back through my phone um, to figure out who called and what they called for. So I encourage you to please contact our office with any complaints that you have so we can have a record of your complaint along with a phone number. Um, you know, we we've talked about this before with housing, and we gotta educate our community on dealing with housing. We got to start doing a lot of documenting. I know a lot of us don't do that. We have to make sure if you are a tenant, uh, you should have a lease if you are a tenant. You should have a binding lease that between you and the landlord. And when I'm with the different investigations, I'm finding out more and more that landlords are not giving receipts when tenants pay their rent. For some reason, they've stopped doing that, and they feel that the person's money order, uh, receipt. For example, when you go purchase a money order, um, your money order actually has a ticket on it, and you tear that off and you give the landlord a portion, and then you keep a portion. But at the same time, uh, that does not guarantee that your rent is paid, because if there's a discrepancy as far as whether or not you paid your rent, then even if you have that little portion of your money order, that's still not a receipt that you paid it to the landlord. What they're going to do is tell you then that you need to actually uh, have your money order traced to determine who actually cashed the money order. So that still does not verify that you paid your rent, because you have the little slip that comes off of your money order, you know, according to the landlord or the property manager. But I'm encouraging tenants. We use our cell phone for everything else. When you pay your rent, get ready to pay your rent, you need to screenshot your money order. Just screenshot your money order to show who you made it out to, because common sense tells you that if you make a money order out to someone, you're not going to take it and pay somebody else with it. We've had so many issues where property managers or landlords are saying that tenants have not paid their rent, and so because they're not giving out receipts, you really can't prove that you paid your money order if you can't find your money order slip, the portion that you're supposed to keep. If you can't find it, we got to start doing better bookkeeping and create you a file. Uh, Create you a file, yourself a file just for your rent, or just for your bills, and you create that file. Then every time you purchase your money order for your rent, or when you pay, um, for example, you get your light bill or gas bill, you need to have a file. That's the way I have. That's the way I do. I have all my bills in a stack. I have a light, gas, water, in a file. And so when you get that, you create yourself a file for your bill. So when something happens, some people leave their receipts in their car. They leave, and then we've had instances where people leave their receipts in the car get broken into, and people go through all that, and all that is lost. We've had that where we've had to trace people money orders for them because they left their information in the car was broken into, and all that stuff got missing. So I'm asking you all to please do better bookkeeping, uh, to eliminate a landlord telling you that you haven't paid your rent, and then you can't prove you paid your rent. Now, the issue that I'm having with this process is that when these landlords, we've gotten paperwork where showing that the landlord may send something saying you didn't pay your rent um, from last year, and I guess they may did an audit or whatever, and they found that you didn't pay your rent. Well, the notices are saying you need to pay the $250 or you're going to be evicted. What should be happening is that there's an appeal process. So I'm seeing that tenants are not even given an appeal process to say, well, we're showing that you owe $250. Some of these letters don't even say when, what the money owed, what time period it is. They don't say, well, our records show that you owe $250 for July of last year. And so what they're giving them an option is to come in and sign an agreement to pay so much money back per month, or you be evicted. But what that should be an appeal process with that, to say that um, if you feel that this is incorrect, you can file an appeal, and present the information within so many days. That's not an option that's being given, and it should, because if somebody come back a year later and say you owe money from a year later, then you need time to process that, and you need time to be able to, if you paid your rent, to try to figure out what happened. Somebody may have to go back and trace a money order, and it takes 30 days. Tell you that they have up to 30 days to trace your money order. So there's no appeal process, and that's the issue that I'm having. Especially, we've had a lot of issues with our housing authority right here in Macon Bill, with the housing authorities, with these same issues that I'm speaking of. And so the housing authority is not willing to uh, correct these issues. So we have to move forward to make sure that the tenants are protected, because we have elderly people that are also affected by this. So, the only thing I can say is just something not right, that one property has these many issues where money is not money. People rent is not being paid, and they're having to go back and sign agreements to pay money. It's something not right, and that's happening a lot with the same apartment complex. Um, it's something just not right. That should not be happening as much as I'm seeing that it's happening, especially at one property. So again, I'm encouraging our tenants to uh, please do better bookkeeping. I'm you know, a lot of times we have tenants that they know their rights, and so a lot of times when things happen, if you're a type of person that a little bit about what your rights are, then we're seeing that a lot of times the landlord will file an eviction because they know they can go into the courts and say, well, I just don't want to renew their lease. I don't they don't really have to have a reason. With HUD it's a different story, but a lot of these some of these landlords that people are paying rent, regular rent, without any subsidy uh, from HUD, then people are just evicting people because if they speak out and say that I know my rights, you can't do this, you can't do that. A lot of times we're seeing that those tenants are being retaliated against, and they're not renewing their lease or filing eviction. So we just got to be mindful of the law, um, and make sure that we continue to educate ourselves. A lot of the issues that I'm seeing, um, like I say, are things that could be avoided if our tenants take out the time to do um, better bookkeeping, better keeping up with their information. Because when someone tell you that you haven't paid your rent, you can show your receipts, and that's happened also, where we've had some tenants that have been able to dispute it. But my concern is, how did the landlord come up in the first place to say that somebody hadn't paid their rent? What documentation do they have uh, uh, to say that a person has not paid their rent in the first beginning? And then once they can dispute it, then um, it's okay. But why would you approach a tenant with that anyway without some type of proof, to just say that they haven't paid it? So I just encourage tenants to please um, do better bookkeeping. I see someone, Patrick Davis, just posted something, https://www.doorloop.com/law. Get Georgia landlord tenants rights. Um, encourage you to look that up, because you do have rights, and people need to know that. You have some people just move because they don't know their rights. They just move. And so we got to make sure that these tenants um, are educated and aware of their rights. If you have any questions or any types of issues, then you need to call our office at 478-745-9944. The Macon Bill NACP has also partnered with the is also partners with the Georgia Rental Assistance. We have people in our office that do assist um, with the Georgia Rent Assistance. If you're behind in your rent or your utilities, we are assisting with that. Again, our number is 478-745-9944 if you need assistance with um, applying for the Georgia Rent Assistance for your delinquent bills. Um, the next thing I want to talk about, and one other thing I failed to mention, because we've been getting complaints about the, um, where tenants go up on the rent. And so when people call me, I ask whether or not the letter that came out, is it just informing the tenant that the rent is going up? Because that's what they should be doing. If someone's rent going to go up, they should be informing that your rent is your rent is going to go up. But if they basically is there's a difference, and I'm not giving legal advice. I'm actually going by um, a lease, the lease that's given to the tenant. They can increase your rent, and they're supposed to give you notice, but they can't just decrease your rent. For example, if your lease is not renewable until June of 2023, then they can't come in December of 2022 and increase your lease. They have to wait until it's time for your renewal uh, to increase your rent. So we're seeing that too, where the property manager is going up on the rent because there's an increase in the rent. They can't just go up on your rent. They have to wait until it's time for your lease to be renewed, because you've already signed a lease agreement that you were going to pay a certain amount for an entire year. Your lease is good from um, June 2022 until June 2023. So going up on your rent December 2022 is not acceptable. And you need to be questioning that, and you need to be getting some type of assistance from an attorney or to get advice on that. So I just want to educate you on that, because we've seen a lot of that, and we've had people say that they lease, rent has gone up a couple times within a year, and it shouldn't be doing that. It shouldn't be going up. Also, I want to talk about, I'm not for sure whether or not you all are aware that um, now people's homes are being taken from them um, and sold on the courthouse steps because of delinquent taxes and delinquent garbage fees. Um, I don't know what people's circumstances are, the reason why they're not paying their taxes. But it's something that we're going to be looking into because of some things that has been brought to the NAAC's attention. Um, and what I've saw so far is that we have some people property that have been put up for sale, has been actually been put in the newspaper. Um, some people say they haven't received a bill, and I don't know whether that's true or not. But I do know myself have experienced not receiving a bill. Um, I have some land, I have some property um, myself um, that is rental property that I have. There's some land attached to it, but the land is not associated with that property. It actually is adjoined to that property, but it didn't have the same address. The property is actually on another street. And so I never get a bill for that property, but I do know that I owe it. So I pay it every year, but I don't get a bill for it. So, some people are saying that they haven't gotten a bill. I don't know what the circumstances is, but I do know that people's homes are being taken. Uh, some people's homes are being taken that no one has lived there for years. There is no one, there's no occupant in that home. And so sometimes the property owners just, they leave the land, the home is actually blighted, is not being taken care of. And I do know that, I don't know where they're sending these bills to for properties like that. If no one is there as an occupant, hopefully they're sending the bills to the owners. I don't know whether they're responding or not, but properties that people are living in, um, that homes are being taken. I'm just would think that, especially with someone, an elderly person, or we don't know what their circumstances are. We don't know what anyone's circumstances are, but it look like it should be um, something put in place, like a preventive or some type of program to help people that, we have all this money, all this grant money that we have. Look like there would be some type of program put in place for people that are having hardship with their property. And we just um, experienced that with someone got a complaint. Actually, I've gotten two complaints because I've got one today. Um, Another complaint that the property is behind, and they would not allow them to make arrangements. And it actually wasn't their property. It's their mom's property that died. And so um, they're just trying to keep from them selling that property because they grew up in that home. Now we've had another complaint where someone that's up in age, very elderly person, um, home is actually um, in jeopardy of her losing her home that she lived in, that her children grew up in. But what my concern with that is that people should pay their taxes, and I agree with that. But at the same time, there cannot be any discrepancies. You have to treat each property owner the same. We have to treat it the same. And I've already found one property. I've already found one so far. I hadn't even scratched the surface yet. Um, because at this time, what we're doing is we were doing an open record request to request all the properties that a lien has been put on, or whether or not their homes have been put up for sale. And the reason that we're doing that is because we recently got a complaint, and I'm showing that there's a discrepancy in the way that the tax commissioner's offices handle the properties. So, anytime, people say, I've heard people say the NAACP is a racist organization, um, and we need to stay out of a lot of things. But the problem is that when people show a difference in the way they treat the same situation, this is why the NAACP has to get involved, because you cannot treat the same situation different than someone that's not in your protected class. So this is where it becomes an issue with the NAACP. When you have the same situation, you allow someone to make arrangements that owes much more money, and that's been basically behind in their taxes at the same time, and then you tell people no, they cannot make arrangement, that they got to have $7,000-8,000 up front in order for you to keep your property, but then you allow someone else in the same situation to make arrangement. That's an issue with us. And so we're going to bring it to the light, and we will go from there. Because one thing about um, the NAACP, I'm not going to do anything without a proper investigation. Sometimes it takes us longer, and some people may say that we're slow doing things, but it's certain things that you can't And I tell everybody, um, tell everybody that if you certain things, if you come in and want us to work on it right then and want a quick fix, then we're not the right organization, because we're going to investigate the situation. So if you got something that you call a complaint in today and you want it fixed tomorrow, then we're not the right organization, because we don't do anything without doing an investigation. It has to be an investigation to make sure that what you're bringing to us is correct. And then we have to investigate. We have to pull documents. We have to, um, we've had a lot of dealings with property managers and different things like that. But like I say, what we're not going to do is allow our tax commissioner to treat the same situation different. I would not be speaking on this if I didn't have proof. And so this is what we're dealing with. And so this is why we're going to be doing an open record request. And that's why I'm saying it's so very important. We have 153,000. It's 150 something, not for sure, but 150 something um, registered voters, and we want everyone to be uh, a registered voter. But all the people that are living in Bibb County, we should have more members in the NACP than what we have, because most people do not come to us until they need something, and then they still don't join. They just want us to help them, and then they leave away, not even paying $30 just to come become a member. It's only $30 per year to become a member of the NACP. And with all the issues that are going on in our communities, we need all the help that we can get. Because like I say, at this point, when we pull records like this, we need people in place to help us investigate. We need people to members to be able to, because we set up on committees. We have a housing committee, we have a criminal justice committee, we have a health committee, we have an education committee. So we need everybody that's to be a part of this organization, so they can help us fight against these types of issues that affect our community. You have people losing their homes because of garbage fees. Garbage fees is a service. You even have properties like myself. I don't, it's not my property, it's my husband's property. But we have property that no one lives in. There's no service, but we still have to pay we still have to pay garbage fees where nobody lives. This is absurd. And so if I don't, if I don't pay these garbage fees that no one lives at, then I stand a chance of losing this property because of garbage fees. A lien can be placed on the property be sold for garbage fees that no one even lives there to collect garbage. So this is a very big issue in our community. And I am pleading out to these people in this community to please join this organization. We we just got so much that we need to do. There's so many injustices uh, that are in our community, and we need everybody's help. We want you to join, but we want you to join and we want you to work. Because, like I say, most people that come to us and we help them, we don't see them again until they get in trouble again. And so, we ask for you to join this organization. Um, you know, you may not see this organization in the media a lot. You may not hear, and that's what we're working on too, because we want people to, we keep up with everything that we do. And a lot of times people, because they don't hear from you or they don't see you, they think that you're not working. But I promise you, this organization is a very active organization here at Make a Bill. So with that said, we're going to be doing open record requests from the courthouse to provide us with all properties where a lien has been placed or property that's been levied off. And we're going to be requesting, doing an open record request to request information from the tax commissioner's office also. I think it's very crucial at this point because we gotta see what areas are being targeted, um, whether they're even targeted. We just gotta see what properties are being levied off, and to make sure that there's no disparities in how the properties are being um, uh, how the properties are being levied or liens being put on property. Like I said, I do have one case so far that I'm showing that that property is being treated differently in the same situation, and that has to be dealt with. Um, the next issue that I want to speak on today is, and I don't know that I've spoken about it since it happened, but we had an article came out back in June, where a former district attorney here in Bibb County made a statement, and it was released through uh, uh, another news outlet. And the conversation that took place through an email, in which, again, it's taken me a little while to come forward with this, because I first had to get a copy of the conversation. And like I said, when I get ready, when the NAACP get ready to make a move on something, we have to have proof. We're not just going to move um, without having facts, because whatever I do or whatever the makeup of NAACP does, it affects the national, the entire association. So that's why I have to have facts before we allow the NAACP to move on it. And so what we did was we were able to get um, the actual conversation that took place, and where the district attorney, the assistant district attorney, which was up under David Cook's administration, um, Jason Martin, he actually it was a conversation between he and another person, and the person made the statement and said, I had to deal with the worst type of people today. And his reply was, "Oh, black people?" And it was a question mark. So when he was contacted by this news outlet and asked about it, he first denied it, that he made that statement. And then he went back and he called the media outlet back and said, "Oh yeah, I remember the conversation." And then they went back and forth. He said, "Well, with you being a district attorney, assistant DA, shouldn't you be held at a higher standard? You made a racial statement that, black people are the worst people. You insinuate that black people were the worst people." And so the conversation went on, and he eventually said he did make the statement, but it was a joke. And so I want to just, say this. As assistant district attorney, you cannot make a joke that black people are the worst people when you are a prosecutor for Macon, Bibb, and Peach County. You cannot make a statement that black people are the worst people, because it raised a concern to me whether or not you actually prosecuted people based on whether they were guilty or whether they were black or whether they was a minority. Well, he said black people, so I'm saying black people. So when you prosecuted these people, did you prosecute them based on the fact that they were black, or you prosecuted them on that you had evidence? So what we've done at this point, again, we need members, because we have to go through every case. We've requested every case that he's handled while he was in office as a prosecutor. Uh, and I think, I don't want to give dates, but I think that the date that he came into the prosecutor's office may have been 2016, 15, 16. Uh, and he was a prosecutor up until 2020. He left the district attorney's office once our new district attorney was uh, was voted.
It's AM and FM, how you heard it in the old days.
And so I want to say that again because we did have an interruption. Um, he was assistant district attorney between I think 2015 or 16. I left my paperwork at home, but through 2020, 2020. And so what we've done is we've requested every case that he has prosecuted. We have received that information. We also requested the cases that his wife, Grace Martin, has handled because she was also a prosecutor, assistant district attorney in that same office with her husband from 2018 to 2020. So we have also requested her cases, which we've also received. And we're going to be looking at these cases. Um, uh, we're going to be looking at these cases to make sure that these cases were properly um, uh, prosecuted. And also whether or not whether or not the victims, um, did he seek justice for the victims? Um, so, you can't joke about black people are the worst people. If you ask a question, you said black people and put a question mark, for you to say that mean that you insinuated that black people were the worst people. So again, as a prosecutor, you cannot make those type of statements. We have to hold people accountable for their actions. And so what I did, I sent out a press release to um, to bring this to the light. And of course, a couple other news stations did not show up. One news station showed up, and then his boss decided not uh, to air the story. But I'm not going to sit silent on it. They may not um, air it, but it will be brought. It will be uncovered, even if I have to take it to another media outlet. So it has to be uncovered. People need to know because you don't know. You don't know. And what I did was when I requested that, the NACP, when we requested the case, and what we received is the name of the person uh, who prosecuted the case and what judge handled the case. And so, we don't know who has been prosecuted that may have had some issues, and by this not being able to be brought to the media and brought to the people, then it's just like it's silent. It's just sitting there. But I promise the people that it's not going to be something that we're just going to sit on. We will get this out one way or the other. People will know what is going on and what has happened and what has been said. And so I want to, just say to our community, the NACP is here for this community. We're going to be vocal. We're going to be uh, here for this community. But at the same time, we need the support from this community. If you notice that when things happen in communities, the communities come out and they support whatever is going on. They support their organization. I have not seen it yet now where Bibb County has really, we're talking about the community. We're talking about ministers. We're talking about the community. To come out and support this organization on the things that we're trying to do in this community. But we did voter registration at the last weekend at a concert, and I just wish you could see the people that were there at that concert. But you cannot come out and support. It's just not the NACP. It's other things that are going on in our community. Um, uh, it's other things that are going on in our community that is not being supported by this community. And people really don't do anything until it actually hit home, until it affects them. Then they want the NACP. They reach out to the commissioners. They reach out to everybody for assistance, but then you don't support anything. So many cities are able to get things done because when people are fighting for you, then you need to stand with people that are fighting for you. They're able to get things done because when 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 they get ready to protest or whatever, the people are there to support them. Now, I believe in demonstrations. I believe in protesting. I believe in marching. I believe in that. But we have to, if we protest and nothing happens, then we got to have a backup plan. I believe that protesting and marching is important because when you do that, it shows that you have the support you need, and then that people, it brings attention to the situation that people keep in the dark. But at the same time, you have to support people that are working for you. You can't wait till it happens to you and then you want people to help you and support you. Join the organization now to help the entire community. Because what we're fighting for, we're fighting so this won't continue to happen to other people. But like I said, it's only $30 a year to join this organization. Believe me, we're not sitting silent. We've gotten 3 or 4 complaints last week from parents where children have been called the N word from their teachers. Something that we have to deal with because they don't feel that, nothing is being done to protect their children. Even when it's brought to their attention, nothing is being done. We've had 3 parents just last week who have their children have been called the N word by teachers that's supposed to be there educating their children. We have housing issues that we're dealing with where people are being evicted, wrongfully evicted. We have our criminal justice system where we are tirelessly working to help people. But people, please, if something happens, we can't go into court and represent you, but sometimes, depending on what the situation is, um, we may be able to assist you. But you can't wait till you get ready to go in the courtroom and call us. You gotta do a complaint with us before then, when it first happened. Sometimes people go and they pay thousands of dollars for an attorney, and then when the attorney come off their case or whatever, and it don't work out, then they come to the NAACP a week before they get ready to go to trial, or 2 days before they get ready to go to trial. Then they want us to work miracles. It's not going to happen. We have to have time. We have to have time to be able to investigate to see where we can assist. So again, it's so important that, and I stress it and I stress it over and over again. We need your help, and we need for you to join this organization so you can help us help fight for justice and equality. Because there's definitely a lot of things that is not there are a lot of injustices that's happening. dealing with our housing, education, um, criminal justice system, um, our voting rights. And again, we're encouraging people to please get out and vote on November the 8th. I know that's your choice, but when I look at it, I think about during the time, when I was reading as a child, even as an adult, where I read and educated myself on how we used to have to count jelly beans in a jar to see if you know, that determined whether or not you were able to vote or not. Um, and then when we were allowed to vote, um, our voting rights was not something that was set in stone. People had to go into court and fight for our voting rights every 20 years for us to be able to continue to vote. So why would we take that for granted? Because one thing about it, if we were not, if our vote did not count, and I hear people say that, and I just get so upset when people say that our votes does not count. If our vote did not count, why would people be in why would legislation work so hard to keep us from voting? Why are they putting barriers in place to make it harder for people to vote if our vote did not count? No other race voting rights had to be renewed every 20 years. White women were not even able to vote in the beginning, just men. But when they were given the right to vote, their voting rights did not have to be renewed. Their voting right was protected from now on. Only minorities, people of color, and minorities, votes had to be renewed every 20 years. And I promise you, people, that your power is in your vote. They are afraid when we get out and vote. They are afraid. This is why barriers have been put in place. And if we don't get out and vote, and things that turn out the way people expect for it to turn out, is no excuse. There's no excuse for you to complain. We got a situation where we have a situation where people doing COVID, everyone did not have health care. We have a chance where every person between the age of 19 and 64 could have medical coverage, and that has not taken place. Georgia is one of the states that has not elected to have Medicaid expansion where every person would be covered under health care. If that's not enough, then something is terribly wrong if you don't see that an issue. I just want people to understand that voting is our power. People are afraid when we vote. We can no longer sit on the sideline and say that voting does not count, because it does. That's been proven. There's some other excuse you're going to have to use. That can't be the excuse. People are taking voting for granted. Please get out and vote on November 8th. If you don't do early voting starting October the 17th, please get out and vote on November 8th. We are counting on your vote. Your vote is power. I promise you, if you get out and vote, we can make a difference. Thank you. And again, thank you for listening to the Naacp Truth, because that's all we have to give you is the truth. Thank you again.
You have been listening to the live broadcast of the NAACP with Gwinnett Westbrook and Mr. Dumas. Come join us next Monday at 4 o'clock p.m. on 980 WDDO.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of the Glory 980 AM, the Glory Media Group, LLC, WDDO AM, its staff, management, or advertisers, but are the views and opinions of